Did you know that Islam is expanding in huge proportions right now? In Europe, the Muslim population in Europe, excluding Turkey, got to take Turkey out of the picture. It was about 30 million people in 1990. Today, it was 30 million in 1990. By 2010, it was 44 million. And now it's well over 50 million, the second largest religion in Europe. How is this happening? I mean, England, last time I've been in England was many years ago, but in the 90s, it was being overrun then by Muslims. And the Europeans, the English, they were like, oh, this is a good thing. We need to have an expanding population and we need to bring in diversity, just like we're hearing here, diversity, equity, and inclusion. All that's nonsense because Islam only has one goal. There's only one goal of Islam. Hello, one goal. Do you know what it is? One goal. What is it? World domination. That's their goal. They never stopped. Doesn't matter whether they're peaceful Muslims or radical Muslims. Doesn't matter. We'll talk about that, but first, let's watch this video.
There was a time when Islam was given the benefit of the doubt by many people in the West. Now we think it's poison and we wish we'd never heard of it because 20 years of baseless grievance mongering and knee-jerk offense have shown us this religion for what it really is, and now we don't like it, we don't trust it, and we are never going to respect it. And we don't care how Muslims feel about that. Everything's an insult to this religion. Everything causes offence. Well, nobody gives a damn anymore, people. You've done it to death. You've killed the goose that laid the golden egg. So now, if you're an offended Muslim, go stick your head in the oven for all we care. And if you think that if you keep up the violence, the West will eventually cave in, it's not going to happen. Even if the politicians want it to, the people won't allow it. We'll carry on speaking our minds openly and freely because it's our birthright and it can't be taken away from us. It can only be given away. And we are giving Islam nothing because Islam gives us nothing. It's a religion permanently on the take. Gimme, gimme, gimme is all we ever hear. Give me respect, even though I haven't earned it. Give me special treatment or I'll be offended and you'll be a racist. Well, we're sick and tired of hearing it. We're sick and tired of Islam and we're sick and tired of the needless conflict and intimidation that comes from this religion at every turn.
See, Britain is rising up against the Islam movement now. It's too late. Hello. You guys missed the boat. You missed the boat. You were warned about it in the 90s. You were warned about it in the early 2000s. You were told about it. We have many Christian fundamentals who came there and told you, listen, you can't let this happen because eventually Sharia law is going to come in. What happened? Sharia law in parts of England. You would think that's not possible. Sharia law is the kind of thing that, if they catch you stealing, they cut your hand off. Hello. Do I have to tell you what happens if you're caught committing adultery? No, you don't want that to happen, do you? It's either that or to kill you. Listen, these are dangerous philosophies, but yet we don't care. Britain is trying to rise up now against Islam, and what they're finding is Islam has infiltrated their government. They have Muslims involved in the parliament, Muslims throughout their government, Muslims in their deep state. What's happening in America, my friends? I brought this up because this is what's happening in America. We have people like, Elon, what's her name? We got 3 or 4 of them in there. And what do? They're constantly on the wrong side of issues, on the devil's side, if you will. They're on the side of evil. Ilhan Omar. They take the side of evil every single time. When Israel was invaded, Gaza was the one that invaded and killed, cut up babies, put them in ovens, burned them and all this. And our own representatives can't even stand up against that. Why? Because they're Islam. Because they're Islamic. This is what they support. This is what they believe. It is their religion. It is their doctrine. It is their ideal. And the goal is world domination. They want to replace our existing culture, our existing morals, our existing values with theirs. They've done it everywhere that they go. And they're doing it in Europe. And they will do it here in America if we don't stop it from happening now. All throughout Europe, the radical form of Islam is on the rise. And if that's not a concern to you, listen to this.
We are here to tell you that Islam and the Sharia is unstoppable in Europe.
Stoning for adultery, cutting off hands for stealing, death for renouncing Islam. This group of men is trying to enforce Sharia law in the UK. They've started a campaign to make certain areas of London and other cities Islamic law-controlled zones, starting with Walthamstow, East London.
Muslims will be commanding good and forbidding evil, presenting Islam as an alternative to the Muslim and the non-Muslim community. Ultimately, we believe that Muslims can live together, trade according to the Sharia, resolve their problems according to the Sharia, and even police themselves to a large extent. Hopefully one day to have Islamic Emirates which will have authority locally, security locally, and even provide welfare locally.
Chowdhury and his friends are fly-posting parts of London with large Muslim populations. They want to ban drinking, gambling and playing music. And they say they've got bands of young men ready to patrol and enforce Sharia law by any means.
Wow. Wow. They want Sharia. And they're bold enough to just come out and tell us, we want Sharia. We want Sharia law. And we have some crazy judges. We do. I mean, thankfully, it's not on the Supreme Court yet that we have some of these crazy radicals, but there's a lot of them throughout our nation. And what these radicals want to do is they want to give them their desire. Oh, sure, let them have well, they control this district and there's more Muslims in this particular district, like in Michigan. There's a lot of, certain parts of Michigan. That's how we got some of these representatives. That's how they got elected, because we allowed these immigrants, illegals, to come into the country. We bus them to a certain area. We allow them to expand and they multiply like rabbits. And then what happens is, then they begin to vote locally. And now New York just passed a law that allows them to vote in local elections. And there's like 6 or 7 other states that are going to follow suit. And they don't think anything of it. Well, that's not a big deal. It is a big deal. If we allow them to vote in local elections, they are going to determine who the representatives are who go and represent them at the state level and then in the federal level. Do you understand? It's all about control. Wow. If we only knew what Sharia law really was. But most Americans, we're just too loving. We're too kind. It categorizes Sharia. It categorizes all of man's acts into 5 distinct categories. Listen to this: obligatory, recommended, permitted, discouraged, and forbidden. Do you hear me? Obligatory, recommended, permitted, discouraged, and forbidden. Now, forbidden would be like cursing, fornication, murder, disrespecting one's parents. The punishment for such transgression is, however, subjective. What do you mean? It means it's up to the imam in that area that is over the Sharia area. In other words, they designate this area as being controlled by Sharia, whether it's by district or by city or town or whatever. And in that area, the persons who oversee the Sharia law implementation are imams. The imams are usually those that do the teaching in the mosques. And so in every place, there are extremists, and then there are what are considered to be the more passive, peaceful type of Islamic. Now, of course, I don't believe that, but this is what they espouse. And so what happens is you have 2 different opposing views, supposedly. So you don't know who you're going to get. What if you got one of the crazy radicals? Cut off his hand. That's what they'll do. And that's what they're doing in Europe. And that's what they'll do here in America. I wonder how the LGBTQ folks would feel if, like after their most recent protest that they had, in support of Muslims, that's what they were doing. What if they found themselves being thrown off the nearest high rise because they were gay? Hello, wouldn't that be ironic? They're out there like cheering on, Palestine, yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, it's sad. I wouldn't want to see that to anybody, but I got to tell you, there's sometimes that flesh side of me wants to go, go ahead. Push the envelope. See how far you get. We've just gone so far over the edge, we don't even realize when we've gone too far. Women in the Muslim communities are pressured to stay with abusive husbands. Oh, gee, we don't hear the women's groups talking about that any. We don't hear about the feminists talking about that any. But yet that's what happens. And when I talk about abuse, I'm not talking about walk behind me in the mall. I kid my wife about that sometimes, because I walk fast. She walks slow. So I'll say, honey, just keep 5 steps behind me, And of course I'm only kidding because I love my wife and I would never mistreat her. But, in Islam, a woman cannot walk alongside her husband. Oh, no. She's got to walk at least 5 steps behind him. Why? It's not a sign of respect for manhood. Hello. How about if we start preaching that right here in America? I'm in. What do you think? I think that would be a great thing. Oh, yeah. That would be welcome with open arms, right? The left hasn't said a word, though, about it. Not a word. Crazy. See, such ideas as this are not normal to you and I, right? I mean, let's face it, that's not normal. We, as Americans, we don't consider that normal. If I know a friend of mine is abusing his wife, I'm going to step up and say something. I'm going to say, that's got to stop. Why? Because that's not normal. It's not right. It's not godly. That's the way I would put it.